He had a dalliance with a local girl, a housemaid who abandoned her duties to sport with the son of the house. You mean he pestered one of the staff? And, if my father had married all the girls he bothered, he married this one. His uncle spat the words out, then went on in his usual condescending tone. Or so it is suggested. By whom? And why wasn't it suggested while you were scrabbling round for a way to make yourself Earl? I could not say. Conrad looked sour. But I have now received this information, and it must be investigated. Whatever the Committee for Privileges has ruled, this would change everything. If your father was already married at the time he wed your mother, that second marriage is invalid, and you are not legitimate. If, Rufus said, where's the proof? Who is this woman? And if she was married to my father, why hasn't anyone heard of it till now? Her name is Louisa Breitling. She is, or was, a local woman from Fairfield. She no longer lives in the area, and her whereabouts are not known. Then who's making this claim? Conrad gave him an exceedingly unpleasant smile. Her son. They sent the claimant orders to present himself at Stone Manor the next day. Rufus would have preferred to ride down and confront the fellow at once, but he lived in Dymchurch, halfway across Romney Marsh. It would probably be bad tactics anyway. He didn't want to treat this latest freak of Conrad's as having any more substance than all his other accusations. He needed to get out of Stone Manor. It was raining, as it always did in this blasted place and this blasted country, but he ordered his horse anyway and rode out for Bud's farm. He'd been meaning to go, given the numbers of complaints that had come from that source, and hopefully an unheralded visit on such a dismal day would make him look like a good landlord who took his duty seriously. Little chance of that, he reflected as he rode along the wooded, dripping lane to Wittersham, what with a pile of unread or half-read letters accumulating on his desk, and the nightmarish labyrinth of accounts to which he had no clue, and the state of his lands, which showed itself to be worse and worse the closer he looked. This was, or should be, a prosperous area, since the Weald supported an amazing number of sheep per acre. The Dormestys ought to be a prosperous family with prosperous tenants. He might easily have inherited the earldom as a well-run concern, with a smooth transition of authority from his grandfather to himself. No such luck. Rufus had spent 7 miserable months in the legal mire as the Committee for Privileges examined his claim to the title. It had been scarifying, but he'd won. He was the Earl of Oxney, immovably in place unless he committed treason, which he didn't intend, or was proven illegitimate, which he was determined not to worry about. This was a last desperate throw of Conrad's, and Rufus was tired of putting up with nonsense because his uncle couldn't let go of his disappointment. In fairness, Conrad had good reason to be disappointed, and angry too. The previous Lord Oxney, Walleran by name, had had 3 sons, of whom Conrad was the youngest. The eldest, Baldwin, Lord Stone, had never married. Raymond, the second son, had eloped with a draper's daughter, Mary Hammond. The old Earl had promptly disowned him and disavowed any responsibility to Rufus, his grandson. He didn't respond to pleas for help when Raymond abandoned his young wife and child, or send for the body when Raymond died, and when Rufus was reported killed in action and his grieving mother wrote to let the Earl know, he had replied that he was glad to hear it. Mary never forgave that cruelty, and Rufus didn't blame her. But it meant that she didn't trouble to write to Stone Manor when Rufus turned up, thin, ill, scarred, but alive after 5 months as a prisoner of war. She hadn't wanted the Earl's poison tainting her joy. And then the eldest son, Baldwin, died. Mary saw the notice in a newspaper and took vengeful pleasure in advising the Earl that his despised commoner grandson was alive and now his heir. The Earl replied with a single line of crabbed acknowledgment.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.